The invisible trigger, how your brain spends before you decide, impulse loop. You didn't plan to buy it, you weren't even looking for it, but somehow it ended up in your cart, your bag, or your hand, and you only noticed after the money was already gone. Sound familiar? Most people believe they make spending decisions consciously. They think they evaluate the price, consider the need, weigh the options, and then decide. But the truth is that a large portion of financial decisions happen before the conscious mind even gets involved. The brain has already decided. You just show up to confirm it. This isn't a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's biology interacting with a system that was specifically designed to exploit it. And until you understand how this mechanism works, no budget spreadsheet, no financial app, no willpower in the world will be enough to stop it. Let's talk about what's really happening inside your head every time you spend money you didn't plan to spend. When something triggers a sense of reward, move toward it. The brain doesn't pause to check your bank account. It doesn't consult your financial goals. It responds. This response is mediated by dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated not just with pleasure, but with anticipation. And here is the critical detail that most people miss. Dopamine doesn't spike when you receive the reward. It spikes when you expect it. The moment you see something you want, the moment you imagine owning it or experiencing it, the dopamine is already flowing. That rush of excitement you feel when browsing a sale, clicking on a product page, or walking through a store, that's not you enjoying the purchase. That's your brain chemically pushing you toward it. By the time you reach the checkout, the emotional decision has already been made. What follows, the tap of the card, the confirmation of the order, is just the execution. Now let's add another layer. The environment is not neutral. Every retail experience, physical or digital, is built around one single goal: to create the conditions where your brain triggers faster than your judgment can respond. Limited time offers create urgency because the brain treats scarcity as a threat. When something might disappear, the survival instinct activates. You stop comparing value and start reacting to loss. Discounts reframe reality. A product that costs $60 doesn't feel like a $60 expense when it's presented as 50% off the original price. The brain anchors to the original value, not the actual cost. You feel like you're gaining, even when you're spending. Seamless checkout removes friction. Every step you have to take to complete a purchase is a moment where your conscious mind could catch up and say, wait, do I actually need this? One-click buying, saved card details, automatic cart, all of it is designed to prevent that pause from happening. Visual abundance, curated recommendations, social proof, bestseller, trending, others also bought. These are not just marketing tactics, they are neurological triggers, and they work because the brain is not rational. It is social, reactive, and deeply influenced by what others around it are doing. The decision was emotional. The explanation is rational. But the explanation came after the fact, to protect the ego from the truth. And the truth is this: if the purchase wasn't planned, wasn't on a list, wasn't thought about before you encountered it, it was likely driven by a trigger, not a need. That trigger could be stress, boredom, a sense of reward after a difficult day, social comparison, or simply the way a product was presented to you. None of those are financial reasons. They are emotional ones. There's a belief worth dismantling here, and it runs deep in how most people think about their own spending. The belief is this: I have a spending problem because I lack self-control. This belief is both inaccurate and counterproductive. Inaccurate because, as we've seen, the issue isn't self-control, it's neurological architecture being exploited by billion-dollar systems. Counterproductive because self-blame leads to shame, and shame does not produce better financial behavior. It usually produces more impulsive spending, as the brain seeks relief from the discomfort of shame. The people who seem to spend less impulsively are not people with superhuman willpower. They are people who have, consciously or not, built structures that reduce the frequency and intensity of triggers. They shop with lists. They add friction to the purchase process. They understand their own emotional patterns well enough to recognize when they're in a vulnerable state. This is not a personality trait. It's a system, and systems can be built. If this is what you take from everything said so far, let it be this. The environment where you make decisions matters more than the decision itself. Changing behavior in the moment of temptation is the hardest possible place to intervene. The dopamine is already flowing. The emotional justification machine is already running. At that point, you are playing defense against a system that has been optimizing itself for decades. The far more effective place to act is before the trigger. Remove the apps from your phone that you browse without intention. Unsubscribe from promotional emails. Delete saved card information from online stores. These are not dramatic actions. They are architectural ones. They introduce enough friction that your conscious mind has a chance to re-engage before the decision is made. Create a waiting rule. Not forever, just long enough for the dopamine to stabilize. 24 hours for small purchases, 72 for larger ones. This single habit dismantles the urgency illusion. When you return to something after 3 days and still want it, you're dealing with preference, not impulse. Most of the time, you won't return. Name your triggers honestly. Some people spend when they're stressed, some when they're lonely, some when they feel like they've earned a reward. There is no shame in any of these, but knowing your pattern puts you one step ahead of the loop. When you feel that familiar pull, you can pause and ask, is this a financial decision, or am I responding to something else right now? If you've been paying attention to your own patterns, there's a good chance you've already thought of 3 or 4 specific situations where this applies to you. Maybe it's the late-night online shopping, the gas station purchases you don't plan, the coffee shop upgrades, the sales you can't pass up. That recognition is not the problem. That recognition is the beginning of the solution. Most financial education focuses on numbers, budgets, percentages, interest rates, investment returns, and those things matter, but they come later. Before any of that, there is the behavior, and before the behavior, there is the brain. If you don't understand how your mind processes financial decisions, you will keep optimizing a system that has a hole in it. The goal isn't to become someone who never enjoys spending. That's neither realistic nor desirable. Money is a tool, and tools are meant to be used. The goal is to be the one deciding how the tool is used, not the store, not the algorithm, not the dopamine spike. You. Not tips, not hacks. Real understanding of how money and behavior actually connect. Come back when you're ready to think deeper.